Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The top story this evening. For the first time in India's political history, a vaccine has made it to an election manifesto. The BJP has promised free COVID-19 vaccine for every person in Bihar once it is available, sparking a controversy. The manifesto was released earlier today, and the first promise was free vaccine. The move has triggered a political backlash, with the opposition questioning the party for using a vaccine to further a political agenda. The RJD has slammed the BJP, saying, and I quote, the political use of the vaccine shows that they have no choice but to sell the fear of disease and death, end of quote. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has also hit out at the BJP. In a tweet laced with sarcasm, Gandhi has asked people to refer to the election schedule of their states in case they wanted to know when the COVID vaccine would be made available. The head of the BJP IT cell, Amit Malviya, has defended the party, saying, and I quote, like all programs, the centre will provide vaccine to states at a nominal rate. It is for the state governments to decide if they want to give it free or otherwise. Health being a state subject, the Bihar BJP has decided to give it free. Simple, end of quote. He did not respond to the charge of exploiting people's fears in the midst of a pandemic, and moreover, he is not in charge of making this announcement. Remember, the central government has not announced the policy as far as vaccine distribution is concerned. This is tasked by a special task force, and so Amit Malviya doesn't really have the jurisdiction to make that clarification. Here's the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman making the announcement after releasing the BJP's Bihar manifesto.
3 ऐसे वैक्सीन भारत देश में प्रोडक्शन के कगार पर आ गए हैं। उसके बाद वो वैक्सीन अगर साइंटिफिक लोग बोलते हैं कि हाँ ये ठीक है, ये अभी प्रोडक्शन कर सकते हैं, प्रोडक्शन करने का कैपेसिटी भी हमारा सरकार के प्रोत्साहन के वजह से रेडी बैठे हैं कि लार्ज प्रोडक्शन करने के लिए। सो जब साइंटिस्ट इसको क्लियर करते हैं, हमारे देश में वैक्सीन का प्रोडक्शन उस लेवल पर होगा जिससे जो हम इधर प्रॉमिस कर रहे हैं, बिहार में हर एक के लिए मुफ्त में वैक्सीन मिल जाएगा।
कितना मजाक और उड़ाएंगे कोरोना महामारी का। करोड़ों लाखों करोड़ों मजदूर पाँव में फफोले लिए, बच्चा हाथ में लिए, पेट में खाना नहीं, पीने को पानी नहीं, बुरे हाल, हजारों किलोमीटर चलकर पैदल आए। नीतीश बाबू और सुशील मोदी जी ने तो उन्हें बिहार नहीं घुसने दिया। प्रधानमंत्री जी कहते हैं 1 साल तक कोई वैक्सीन आएगा नहीं, अपना ख्याल खुद रखिए, और भाजपा इस प्रकार लोगों को बरगला रही है।
Manifesto has no restriction, and manifesto is an announcement of all kinds of promises. So if it is one of those, so that will be a technical advantage that they will have.
So there are many unanswered questions. To start with, we still don't have clarity on when a vaccine will be available in the market. The expectation or the hope is that we should have one by the start of next year. That, as I said, is the expectation. 2, we don't know what the cost of the vaccine is going to be. Remember, the government has not come out and said or given an estimate of how much this would cost the government and whether the cost would be shared by the centre and state. So we don't know how that is going to work. 3, who should get the vaccine? The government has put a prioritization in place. It's a 3-pronged strategy that the government is working with, where healthcare workers and the elderly who find themselves in the most vulnerable category will be given priority. Archana Shukla is standing by with more on the government's plan that has been revealed so far, and the details, as I pointed out, are sketchy. But Archana, as I've said, many unanswered questions, and this is only sort of added to the list of uncertainties when it comes to the vaccine distribution. But take us through what we do know about the distribution and the cost plan so far.
Well, absolutely. The poll promise done during the Bihar election rallies has certainly come as a surprise, because this goes against the government's own program of the 3-tiered approach that they are taking to bring equitable access of vaccines to people who are at high-risk priority groups first and then to the rest of the country, but in an equitable manner. So this goes against it. But what we know so far of the government's plan is that they are intending to immunize about 20 to 25 crore people who are at high risk of COVID-19, of contracting COVID-19 by June or July end. And for that, about 400 to 500 million dosages of vaccines would be required to be procured and supplied across the country. The government so far has not given any state-wise distribution or any other sort of distribution, except that they have said the population would be prioritized based on high risk. We understand that the first priority list would be ready as early November, where about 3 crore people have been roughly identified. This would include about 70 to 80 lakh doctors, around 2 crore healthcare workers and other frontline workers like ASHA workers, nurses, ward boys, etc., who have been at the forefront. After that, and this is the group that would be started, would be given the vaccine first when it becomes available. How it will progress would be through the digitized network, and the digital health IDs would be used. They would be using the electronic vaccine intelligence network to trace and stock the vaccines and figure out their volumes. And secondly, would be using digital health IDs, although they won't be made mandatory. The other IDs, like in an electoral process, would also be utilized. So far, no discussion on stockpiling, no discussion on how many purchases would be made with the vaccine manufacturers or syringe manufacturers, etc., or a state-wise distribution. Like you pointed out, no word on the cost also as yet.
Yes, as I pointed out, many unanswered questions, and that poll promise being made by the BJP has stirred the hornet's nest. Archana, many thanks for joining us. Meanwhile, Nithya Yoga Vice Chairman Rajiv Kumar has told CNBC-TV18 it is too premature to talk about the cost of the COVID vaccine or the government's distribution strategy. Remember, the Nithya Yoga is tasked with helping the government put this strategy together. Take a look.
These are very big numbers spread over a large, long period of time. So if you give out these numbers, they scare you. But the point is that you have to break it down in terms of per month and whether it's going to start this fiscal or the next fiscal, etc. But the fact is that this depends on so many variables that I think, again, to repeat myself and with due respect to you, it is a bit premature. It is, I think, much more important to focus on getting it right.
Well, that is the Vice Chairman of the Niti Aayog saying it's too premature to talk about the cost or the distribution strategy because there are far too many imponderables and variables that the government has to factor in. But here's the latest on the COVID count. Active cases fell for the 19th consecutive day in 24 hours, declining by over 24,000. Total cases rose by over 55,800, and the number of tests has increased to nearly 15 lakh. Recoveries have seen the biggest single-day rise in the last 1 week, with the recovery rate staying above 89%. The positivity rate also dropping to 3.8%, so that's good news there. The government has announced graded relaxations for visa and travel restrictions, and this will enable all overseas citizens of India and persons of Indian origin card holders, along with other foreign nationals, to visit the country. Tourists will not be allowed. So tourist visa is not valid, but others can visit India. Bihar's Deputy Chief Minister Sushil Modi has tested positive for COVID-19. The BJP leader took to Twitter to announce that he has been admitted to the AIIMS in Patna. Sushil Modi said his parameters are perfectly normal and he will be back to campaigning soon. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister will start his campaign in Bihar. Delhi becomes the first state to replicate the centre's Festival Bonanza scheme for government employees, announces a special cash package instead of the leave travel concession fare for 2018 to 2021 to also provide an interest-free salary advance of 10,000 rupees to all employees. Banking stress is less than what appeared in March, but it is too early to declare a victory, says Uday Kotak, as he warns particularly about stress in unsecured retail urban debt. Adds that the hurdle rate for attracting foreign capital into India is low. We only need to provide predictability of policy, says Uday Kotak.
We've had 2 moratoriums, 1 and 2. So that has delayed the recognition of NPA. Second, there is a Supreme Court judgment currently staying recognition of NPAs as we talk. And third, there is a restructuring program which has been announced by the RBI. Therefore, to get a correct picture on stress is a challenge which requires a physicist and a mathematician working together to really figure out what is the true pain in the system. However, what I would say that directionally, things are looking better than what they were. The best time to invest in India is when things look challenging. Therefore, in the backdrop of a significant growth slowdown, my view is this is a great time to be investing in some key sectors of the Indian economy. And I therefore believe that global investors are very open to putting money in India and are essentially looking at stable, consistent, predictable policies over a long period of time. And if we can deliver that, there is a massive flow of relatively low hurdle rate money available in the world.
Well, that's Uday Kotak. Nithya Yoga Vice Chairman Rajiv Kumar says recovery in the economy is broadside and sharper and that India may not have a double-digit GDP contraction, adding that the increase in government debt is not a problem if the rate of growth is higher than the cost of debt.
There are signs that we may have not as bad a contraction of 9.5, 10 double-digit contraction that we thought about. And the reasons are that the recovery in September, August and September, seems to have been quite smart. By the time we are now in the third quarter, that this third quarter will see a smaller contraction than had been forecast. People had said -5%, and the fourth quarter could well be a wash, if not a small positive.
Things looking better for the economy. That's the Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog. Indices traded weak for a large part of the day. There was volatility, but at the end of their lows. The Nifty and the Sensex snapping a 4-day winning streak to close in the red, but mid-cap stocks outperformed, helping the index end firmly in positive territory. Asian Paints reporting an all-round beat for Q2, revenue at over 5,300 crore rupees, net profit of 850 crores, topping the street view. The company's decorative business clocked double-digit volume growth, also reporting the highest EBITDA margin in at least 30 quarters. Bajaj Auto's earnings in line with estimates. They've missed estimates marginally with revenue at over 7,150 crores, profit at 1,100 crores, but margin expectations ahead of street estimates. Bajaj management says there are early signs of a demand recovery. Hyderabad-based injectable drug maker Gland Pharma has learned to have received SEBI's approval for its 6,000 crore rupee IPO. This will be the first major IPO by an Indian company that has a Chinese parent. SpiceJet fails to pay 243 crore rupees to Kalanthi Maran as ordered by the Delhi High Court, moves the Supreme Court against the High Court ruling. Maran moves the Delhi High Court seeking a status quo on SpiceJet promoter Ajay Singh's shareholding due to the non-payment of dues. Well, the big international story, President Trump and his Democratic opponent Joe Biden gearing up for their last debate tonight. Joe Biden currently has a 9 percentage point lead over Trump in an average of the national opinion polls. Meanwhile, senior national security officials in the U.S. have alerted the American public that Iran and Russia have both obtained voter data in their efforts to interfere in the 2020 U.S. elections. Tracy Potts is here with more. Tracy.
The president Intelligence chiefs briefed Congress today on the new development that Iran and Russia obtained voter information and that Iran was behind emails to Florida voters urging them to switch parties and vote Republican.
These actions are desperate attempts by desperate adversaries.
We are not going to tolerate foreign interference in our elections. You should be confident that your vote counts.
Iran denied the allegations, calling them absurd. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called them disturbing.
If people don't believe the elections are fair, that's the beginning of the end of this democracy.
Separately, a cybersecurity firm says hackers are selling public voter registration data for 186 million Americans. The news coming on the eve of the final presidential debate.
Iran doesn't want to let me win. China doesn't want to let me win.
President Trump previewing tonight's attack on Joe Biden.
If Biden wins, China will own the United States. Will own it.
The New York Times reports President Trump had a secret Chinese bank account.
Can you imagine if I had had a secret Chinese bank account when I was running for re-election? You think Fox News might have been a little concerned about that? They would have called me Beijing Barry.
President Obama hitting the campaign trail for Joe Biden in Pennsylvania and again this weekend in Florida.
Well, countdown now to the US polls, 12 days to go. Let's slip into a break, but up next, sweet shops in Kolkata struggling due to COVID-19 and the lockdown. As the festive season comes in, shopkeepers hope for a pickup in demand. A special ground report when we return. Well, the sweets industry in Kolkata has been hit badly due to COVID-19. Many sweet shops have seen a 70% drop in their footfalls because of the lockdown. But as we enter the festive season, shopkeepers are hoping for a pickup in demand. My colleagues Debanjana Majumdar and Arundhati Ramanan get us a ground report on how the festive sentiment is unfolding.
When you think Kolkata, it's highly likely you first think of sweets. Rasagullas, Mishti Dois, Kheer Kadams, Chum Chums, Pantuas, Sandesh, the list is endless. This is a multi-crore rupee industry, most of it unorganized, and the pandemic has left many of them with bitter memories.
With Dussehra around the corner, the demand for sweets increases tenfold. But the sweet shops are facing the brunt of coronavirus this festive season. They are seeing a 30% lesser footfall than the usual. But the shop owners are hopeful that the demand can pick up.
The business was 30% only, means 70% down during the lockdown period and a little bit later. But now market is coming up and it has become like 50 to 60% now. We expect around 80 to 85% during this festive season, but we are not expecting 100% sales compared to last year.
For a few of these sweet shops, going online has helped. Online orders have picked up. It's not that many of them have their own websites. Sweet shops have tied up with popular food delivery apps to keep the sales going. Many have also introduced their own home delivery services.
Since the lockdown, online orders have skyrocketed. It has become like not 10 folds, I would say 20 folds. And we have sufficiently provided, made the online platforms such that we can serve them well. We have made our own bikers group that bikers are coming to us and then getting the product to your house. And so this home delivery system we have started in this lockdown only. That is under our flagship. The third parties are also there like Swiggy, Zomato, and these are also there.
Of course, any sales, whether physical or virtual, follow safety and hygiene protocols like sanitized packaging, social distancing, and even increased automation in the production and packaging process.
We have introduced machineries, different kinds of machineries we have got from Japan, Denmark, Germany. So the production is 75% of the production is automized. So minimum hand touch is there in our products.
You were in our shop, you have seen?
Yes, sir.
The sanitizer was kept on the table.
Yes, sir.
And if there is a rush, we request the people just to keep safe distance. One thing we are doing, if there is no mask, somebody is free of mask, then we tell them we cannot sell.
On their part, customers are also trying to embrace the new normal when they step out to satisfy their sweet tooth.
You see the environment outside, people are going out. It's just that the only thing you can do is take precautions. There is nothing else you can do. Rather than buying it online, I'm comfortable, coming here and getting it myself.
Well, festive season and that's the mood like in Kolkata. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news continues.